you literary legends and luminaries. I'm Julie, and welcome to another episode of Write Smart. Today's book is not quite a celebrity memoir. It's Seth Rogen's Yearbook. I've liked Seth Rogen since Freaks and Geeks. He always seemed normal in the Hollywood sense anyway. And I really loved him in Take This Waltz, a movie that doesn't have a funny plot at all. In my quest to read books by creative people in the hopes of gaining inspiration and purpose in my own creative endeavors, I decided to read Yearbook. I've picked it up and put it down several times, but with Seth Rogen as more than just an actor, he actually writes and creates and directs, I thought I would learn something from him, especially with his satirical look at Hollywood in the studio. Some of the studio episodes are funny, and I always love behind-the-scenes information regarding the creative process in TV and movies. And I did learn some stuff at the beginning. It was fascinating to read his startup in stand-up, how most of his jokes centered around his grandparents. Once again, life inspires art, so I loved it. The first few chapters developed aspects of Rogen's childhood that pertained to his comedy and went chronologically. Then suddenly he's famous, and most of the book consists of funny drug stories. I was rather disappointed. Now, I know that the book is not a memoir. It wasn't advertised as a memoir. However, I was hoping for a theme that strung all the essays together, not just, hey, here's a funny story, and hey, here's another funny story. Oh, and there's that time when this happened sort of thing. But that's essentially what 3/4 of the book is. And many, many chapters are about all the drugs he takes. I think I'm just too old for some of those kinds of stories anymore, although even when I was younger, I think I would have grown tired of them as well. I feel like if you've heard a couple of drug stories, you've kind of heard them all. I also didn't get a sense of how Rogen got through to where he is today. Without Freaks and Geeks, would he have gotten his foot in the door? And Freaks and Geeks was sort of a dramedy. It certainly wasn't a sitcom. So how did all of that factor into his comedic goals? I don't know, he didn't say. The essays that focus on his work in writing and working with other celebrities was interesting, like his discussion with Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage having a Tyrannosaurus Rex skull. I wish the book would have had more of those kinds of stuff. While I like the way Rogen tells his story in Yearbook, they sound in much the way you would have if someone told them. Even his dialogue is written kind of like a play. About halfway through the book, I was hoping for a bit of a change or more substance, but it remained the same throughout. And those funny drug stories just kept coming. So let me read you a bit from an essay so you can kind of get an idea of what his style of writing is like and his voice. And so he says this. Okay, what happened next shocks me to this day, and if you're a movie fan like I am, is really quite special and miraculous. Steven Spielberg came into the room with George Lucas, the two people responsible for most of the cultural touchstones of my childhood together. I'm meeting my heroes, I thought, not remembering the apt saying about just such an occasion. The first thing that struck me was that George Lucas was wearing a denim shirt and jeans, which is a red flag. A lot of billionaire dudes seem to adopt this look, and I find it appalling. And perhaps the most painful insult toward my countrymen is that people call this a Canadian tuxedo. We have real tuxedos in Canada, and they're lined with the finest narwhal blubber and lubricated in the most sugary of maple syrups. Stephen introduced us to George and rattled off some of our credits, none of which George had heard of. I asked George what he'd been up to, and he took a seat across from me, and Evan looked us dead in the eye and said, well, things have been pretty busy considering we're nearing the end of 2012. This sounded vaguely familiar to me. What do you mean? Well, he said, adjusting his denim shirt, you know the world is going to end this year, right? I mean, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. The notion that a dude who conceived of an entire science fiction universe, complete with its own religion, mythology, technology, and hairstyles, would be a true weirdo seems obvious. But it was shocking nonetheless. Are you serious? Evan asked. Very, George settled in. What do you know about the San Andreas Fault? At this point, I noticed Spielberg at the desk behind George rolling his eyes like, here we go again. Me, what should we know about the San Andreas Fault? George, that it's going to fracture and everything west of it is going to sink into the ocean, reshaping the world as we know it. Me and Evan scanned his face, looking for any shred of irony like Mandalorians scanning the cargo hold of the Millennium Falcon for stowaways. Starry. There was none. Okay, so that's his voice. And it just sounds like Seth Rogen, but should it always sound so conversational when you're writing like that? I don't know, right? So as much as I love Platonic and Take This Waltz and Freaks and Geeks, Rogen's book was a little bit disappointing. With the life he has lived, I've kind of felt like this is all you gave your readers. Drug stories were the funniest or best part of the very privileged life he's lived in the past 25 years. I think that's what bothered me. It's not like Seth Rogen has written other books. This is in terms of memoirs, and this is what you want your readers to know, all these silly drug stories. I guess to each their own, and I was hoping for more purpose and inspiration. Instead, I know that you can control an acid trip, but not a shroom one. Thanks for watching. As always, my goal at Write Smart is to get a little bit smarter, one book at a time.